I want to start out with a quote from a visionary, the creator of the Star Trek series and the ideas of Star Trek that, even though revolutionary at the time, keep uplifting, keep rising up to even greater ideas. And that's Gene Roddenberry. And he wrote, "In a very real sense, we are all aliens on a strange planet. We spend most of our lives reaching out and trying to communicate. If during our whole lifetime, we could reach out and really communicate with just two people, we are indeed very fortunate." This week, I've been thinking about communication, been thinking about words, intentions, purpose. Been thinking about safe harbors, peace of mind, of course, our nation, our democracy. I've also been thinking about who we are at our most basic level and what that means in the scheme of things. Because it seems like some people don't get it. And by it, I mean the Mother, Father, God source that is within us. It just seems like their hearts are closed and their mind is blocked somehow. But I know that a block can be broken, that the core of it can be revealed. And I was thinking that if I could just communicate that power that is within me, that is within you, that is in all of us, that you're not only a child of the universe, but an individualized expression of the universal creation itself. And that power of creation is love. If I can convince just two of you, inspire just two of you in this whole world, then I have done my job. Because I know 2 begets 4, and that begets 16, and so on and so forth exponentially, like a positive constructive virus, you might say. The effects of this week's events reminded me of Andrew Day's song from 2015, "Rise Up." The first lyric goes, "You've broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see in you. So we're going to walk it out and move mountains. But I see it in you. So we're going to walk it out and move mountains." The fighter she's talking about. When we can't find the fighter that is within each and every one of us, the fighter in ourselves, the fighter that brings us back, makes us feel safe, whole, with a future. Or like the song says, when the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying. When those things happen, it makes you feel like, as Gene Roddenberry was speaking, like an alien in your own skin. Well, allow me right here and now to remind you of who you are. So let us start from the ground up. The sacred books of all peoples declare that God is one, that there's a unity from which nothing can be excluded and to which nothing can be added. It just is. All people are expressions of the divine. All people reveal the divine in them in one way or another, at one time or another. It's already there. It's whether they want to intentionally and purposefully reveal that. All people are expressions of the divine, and all people have a connection, unification that they can step into with that divine intelligence, with that divine love. This is the most basic tenet of our teaching and most other teachings, actually. one God, one source, one Father, Mother of all, one mind, one life. This is the very basic tenet. This is the ground floor of our belief, of our faith, of our philosophy. We've all had, and when we all have long weeks, whatever that looks like, when we have trauma in our life, when we have negativity that scares the living perfection out of us. It doesn't make us lose our perfection, because that is a spiritual perfection, but it sure scares the living spiritual perfection out of us sometimes. We must feel those feelings. Allow ourselves to feel those feelings. Don't ignore those feelings. Have them for a minute, 90 seconds. Take care of whatever needs need to be taken care of in the 3D world, in the action world. But most importantly, if it is called for, if you can't step back into this revelation of the divinity in you, this vibration of the divine vibration, if you can't step back into that during this, if you keep just sticking in that weeping and raging phase, then it's time. You're being called to start from the ground up. Now, what do I mean by that, from the ground up? Lao Tzu, the purported author of the Tao Te Ching, wrote, "Those who are highly involved maintain an undiscriminating perception." Let me say that again. Those who are highly evolved maintain an undiscriminating perception, seeing everything, labeling nothing. They maintain their awareness of the great oneness. Thus, they are supported by it. Well, we're always supported by the great oneness, but how we are using that support, how we are using it, is what is communicating to ourselves and to the outside world. So what are we communicating? We can observe that there are a lot of social inequities, racial injustice, and disenfranchisement of people going on throughout our world, and that there is a lot in our world that has deeply held beliefs of race superiority, preference, and privilege. It happens even in this philosophy. People become spiritual narcissists, thinking because they are in this philosophy that somehow they are better than others, but that's not true. Your actions might be more positive than others, but we are all one. The divinity is already within each and every one of us right here and right now. That is what is at the ground level of everything. And these beliefs of race superiority, preference, and privileges, they're not consistent with our spiritual and universal principles, with the spiritual truth. So what are we to do? What can we do? How do we become or teach humanity to live in alignment with spiritual truth? Because some of us have to become that. Some of us have to return to that. In our raging and weeping, we fall back into anger and fear and loss of faith and pointing fingers. So how do we have a world with less idiotic behavior, less desperation, less fear and chaos? The negative fear, let's say, the non-protective fear and chaos. Like I said, some seem not to get it, but that's only because their hearts are closed and their mind is locked. But a locked mind can be opened, and the key is love. The love of your oneness. that all are created in the likeness of the Creator. It's not a philosophy. It's not, I know it sounds like it comes out of the Bible, but it's not a religion. It's not about spirituality or metaphysics. It's actually about all of them, and it's about science. It comes from science. Albert Einstein said, a person experiences life as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness, a kind of optical delusion of consciousness. He goes on to say, our task must be to free ourselves from this self-imposed prison and through compassion to find the reality of oneness. Through compassion to find the reality of oneness out there, but most importantly, the reality of oneness in here. From the beginning of creation, the unity of life was set in motion. From the Big Bang, it is the play of life upon itself, the action of a timeless imagination upon an infinite law. What does that mean? Well, through this unity, through this one mind that we all really share, any individual has the ability, through the power of belief, through the power of faith, through the power of intention and purpose, through our thoughts and feelings, through our word, through our impeccable word, through our daily spiritual practice, whatever that is, to ground the self in the absolute knowing and practice of oneness, so that we manifest the experiences around us through and from our God self, our divine self. And when we must, to remember who we are and who each of us are, and to turn to each other, even if it's one or two of us, and say to them, but I see in you this fighter spirit, so we are going to walk it out and move mountains. And from the ground up, we shall rise up like the day, rise up unafraid. We'll rise up high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it, if we must, 1,000 times again. In peace and love of self and love of others, in love of our world, our nation, our universe, let us fly like the gods we are into any diversity, with the strength of the oneness that we are, the power of the universe at our back, the light of our word manifesting our best right here, right now in our lives, and the unconditional love of spirit flowing around us, within us, to us, from us. Let us take off from the ground up. Let us fly. Let's fly. Namaste.